A quick creak announced the unexpected arrival. The door swung open and the click of the handle sounded louder than any whisper. 30 students froze. The scene looked like a black and white photo. In the middle row, Alexa Watson clutched her notebooks to her chest, shoulders shaking, her 12-year-old face burning red with shame. Seconds earlier, Mrs. Coleman had laughed when Alexa said her mom was leading a NASA mission. "Let's be honest, Alexa," the teacher had said, shaking her head. "Black women don't run rocket programs. How about something more believable?" The condescending comment was still hanging in the air when the visitor walked down the aisle between the desks. Confident heels, shiny badge, Dr. Sarah Watson. Her pinned-back hair framed the calm face of someone who'd spent nights calculating lunar orbits. She carried a white helmet with the Artemis mission patch and stopped in front of the chalkboard, where star charts lay forgotten. No student dared to breathe. Coleman swallowed hard. The scientist's eyes landed on her daughter first, then scanned the class. "Good afternoon," she said in a calm tone that felt more powerful than any scolding. "I heard that today we're talking about how to design the future." From the back, someone let out a hushed, "Wow." In the front row, Alexa straightened up. The room's orbit seemed to shift. Suddenly, everything revolved around the woman who shattered expectations without raising her voice. Alexa was the dark-skinned girl with neon braids who, at recess, pointed out the Milky Way like she was showing a shortcut. That morning, Mrs. Coleman had kicked off Career Day and asked each student to present their parents' jobs. The expected answers followed. "My dad's an accountant. My mom's a nurse. My dad works at a bank." When it was her turn, Alexa stood with the confidence of someone who knows the sky. In her hand, a folder of photos. Her mom in zero-gravity training, discussing a lunar module, laughing with NASA engineers. Alexa said, "This is Dr. Sarah Watson. She's an astrophysicist and has just taken over the Artemis project. She's developing engines that will take people to the moon and then to Mars." The class leaned in, but the teacher raised her hand, frowning. "Alexa, fiction is for creative writing class. Black women don't lead NASA missions. Tell us something real." Nervous laughs snaked between the desks. Alexa's face burned. She clutched the folder to her chest, remembering her mom's advice. "Crying is allowed, just not because of what others think of you." "It's not made up," she answered, steady. "She really works at NASA." The teacher sighed like someone closing a book. "Enough, sit down. We have other presentations." For a second, Alexa stayed upright, plotting the orbit of her own courage. Only then did she sit, still holding her little universe in her arms. Alexa walked to her desk, each step feeling like a summons to center stage in a hostile theater. The class, silently alert, traded whispers that felt like hammers against her chest. What no one knew was that the principal had scheduled weeks earlier a surprise visit for that day, a talk on science careers. That hidden detail was setting up something that could flip the game. If this scene has hooked you, stick around, because what comes next changes everything for Alexa. The teacher hadn't even finished saying the next student's name when the door moved. A medium-height woman appeared. Navy blazer, NASA t-shirt, precise braids, carrying a metal case. The principal followed close behind, wearing a smile that mixed pride and urgency. "Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Coleman," the principal announced, "but our guest arrived early. Class, this is Dr. Sarah Watson, a NASA astrophysicist and head of the Artemis project." Silence settled over the desks. The teacher's face went pale. Her eyes darted from Sarah to Alexa, unable to reconcile what she was seeing. Alexa, meanwhile, felt her blush give way to an irrepressible glow. As soon as their eyes met, Sarah sensed the injustice. She knew that mix of relief and defiance her daughter showed whenever she was accused without reason. For now, she just returned the smile, knowing the real conversation was still to come. "Good morning, everyone," Sarah said with the calm of someone counting down a rocket launch. "I'd like to share a bit about my work at NASA and tell you what's coming up in the Artemis mission." While she spoke, she looked for Alexa's face. She found her daughter blinking fast, trying to hold back tears that betrayed her discomfort. The mother behind the scientist instantly noticed that something there was out of orbit. Sarah stepped to the center like moving from the service tower to the launch pad. "Before we dive into the technical stuff, does anyone want to ask something?" she offered. Eyes darted like meteors across space. Many stared at their desks, some fixed on Alexa, accomplices to a buzz that had not yet reached the visitor's ears. Mrs. Coleman adjusted her glasses and tried to sound light. "What a surprise to have you here, Doctor. We were talking about jobs and Alexa mentioned you." The sentence lost momentum before landing, thickening the air. Sarah nodded, connecting dots like reading telemetry. "And what did you hear about me?" she asked, turning to the class. The silence became so dense it swallowed the hum of the projector. Then a red-haired boy carefully raised his hand, as if pressing a crucial button on the control panel. Everyone held their breath, waiting for what would come next. "The teacher said you make things up. According to her, black women don't lead missions at NASA," the boy murmured. The comment hung in the room like space debris, silent but threatening. Sarah kept her face calm. Years of dealing with skeptics had taught her to hide her racing pulse. "I heard, thank you," she replied, setting her briefcase on the first desk. "Let's make the most of this. Today we've got a double period. Mini spaceships and a tablet came out of the case." "Principal Watson, can Alexa help me?" she asked. One nod was enough. The girl stood, still trembling, but with her chin up. On her way to her mom, two classmates snickered. "Gentlemen," Sarah cut in, "whispers in orbit distract and cost lives. Here they only waste learning. Speak up or stay silent." The boys went pale. The projector lit the board with a photo. Her, the agency administrator, and 4 engineers in front of the main engine for the Artemis mission. "It was taken 90 days ago when I became head of propulsion systems," she explained. "Some people still think that's unlikely." Sarah's gaze met Mrs. Coleman's, who shrank like a star about to collapse. "At NASA, we judge reasoning, not color or gender. Whoever solves problems flies." Alexa set the last model on the table. The second class was about to start, and no one dared blink. Alexa, only 12, described orbits as casually as calling a recess game. Between one diagram and the next, she pointed to the engine Sarah was developing. Liquid hydrogen meets liquid oxygen. Thrust is born from a controlled collision. In all her years teaching, Coleman had never seen a choreography like the one mother and daughter created on the board for 20 minutes. Questions turned into arrows. Formulas appeared. Answers clicked into place. When the last exponent faded, the tense air dissolved. Sarah looked at the teacher and reminded the class that science lives on verifiable facts, not hurried guesses. Coleman swallowed hard and nodded. Sarah went on. "Skepticism is a doorway to discovery. Prejudice is a lock that doesn't even need the key of verification." Principal Watson at the door cut in. There would be a meeting after school. That conversation would continue. She thanked them for the presentation and, when the bell rang, waited for chairs to scrape. But no one moved. Sarah was gathering markers when an arm with pigtails shot up in the 4th row. "Dr. Watson, I want to be a scientist, but my aunt says that's too high for people like us." "What's your name?" "Maya." Sarah smiled, held out her hand, and left the answer hanging, ready for the next chapter. "Sweetie, it's not impossible, just hard. The only thing between the two is how much you're willing to stick with it," Sarah said, her smile hinting at a challenge. Then she announced, "Alexa and I are starting an astronomy club at the school. The door's open to anyone who shows up." Maya's eyes went wide. It was like watching a star being born right in front of her. When the bell rang and the class scattered, Miss Coleman stayed frozen, her face flushing. Beside her mom, Alexa felt relief, traces of hurt, and something new. The sense she could move the world an inch. The room emptied and Sarah murmured, "I'm proud of you. You spoke the truth when nobody wanted to listen." Alexa grabbed her like catching a comet. "How did you know everything?" she asked. "I've been in that spot," Sarah said. "I saw in your eyes the reflection I see in the mirror every time someone doubts me." Neither of them guessed this was only the prologue. Meadowbrook would soon learn that underestimating the Watsons is like missing a rocket's orbit. The error grows with every mile. In the days after the incident, the air got thick. The story raced through hallways, parent groups, social media. Some adults defended the teacher, calling it healthy skepticism. Others were outraged at the humiliation dumped on Alexa. At the eye of the storm, she kept a steady stride, even under looks that tried to drag her down. She now carried the certainty that space is way too big for anyone who accepts earthly limits. On Friday afternoon, Sarah opened an email from Principal Watson and held her breath. The school was planning a last-minute science fair to channel the students' new astronomy craze. Even more surprising, he asked her to be the head judge, saying the event could start healing old wounds between the community and the Coleman family. When she saw her mom shut the laptop, Alexa spotted the chance she'd been looking for. "I'm going to build an ion propulsion experiment," she announced at dinner, fork still in midair. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "The same tech we're testing in Phase 3 of the mission?" Alexa nodded without hesitation. "I want everyone to see I really understand your work, not just that I'm the daughter of a NASA scientist." The weekend turned into a marathon. The kitchen table disappeared under notebooks, schematics, and circuits. Between soldering and calculations, Sarah watched her daughter torn between pride and worry, offering only occasional tips. In the small hours between Tuesday and Wednesday, the night before the fair, the big moment came. Alexa hooked up the power supply, held her breath, and fired up the mini thruster. The turbine spun. A faint blue halo sliced through the air. "It worked!" she squealed, hugging her mom. For the first time in weeks, the apartment felt light again. With the motor still flickering, Alexa was already picturing what would happen when the gym doors opened. Bright and early, the gym buzzed with projects: baking soda volcanoes, styrofoam solar systems, posters about photosynthesis. In one corner, almost hidden, Alexa's project stood out. It looked like lab gear. Maya, now a steady ally, tweaked wires and traded smiles with her friend. Miss Coleman moved between the tables. When she reached Alexa's prototype, her face tightened, but her voice stayed even. "What's the topic?" "Ion propulsion for long-haul missions," Alexa answered, steady. "It's the model NASA's testing for Phase 3 of Artemis." Without waiting for a reaction, she powered up the panel. A blue halo sprang from the little engine and a soft hum rolled through the gym. Students who moments earlier were busy with cardboard models drifted over, fascinated. Alexa explained, "The ions here are accelerated by electricity, and hit speeds chemical fuel can't match. On long trips, that means less weight and more range." Every sentence pulled in more listeners. The circle widened as the blue glow pulsed. Across the court, Sarah walked in with Principal Watson. She spotted her daughter at the center. The classmates who had laughed at her weeks ago were now elbowing each other to get closer. "Your daughter has a rare talent," the principal murmured. "We may be watching a scientist being born." The buzz drew in teachers whose classes hadn't even known about the fair. In the middle of the floor, Alexa fielded a storm of questions. She talked about ions, thrust, and vacuum with the ease of explaining how to brew coffee. Each nod from the crowd fed her confidence, and soon even older students squeezed up front to hear better. When the judges met, Sarah traded quick whispers with the other evaluators. It took less than 2 minutes. The principal raised the mic and stepped onto the platform. "Third place, Henry Davis for his research on solar panels." Applause broke out. "Second place, Maya Lawrence for her study of habitable exoplanets." Maya blushed, found Alexa's eyes, and smiled before getting her medal. The gym fell quiet. The principal let the pause stretch, then said, "And first place goes to Alexa Watson for her working ion propulsion model." The place erupted. Alexa froze for a heartbeat, made sure it was real, then strode to the stage. Besides the engraved certificate, she received a scholarship to the City Observatory's summer program. The principal handed her the microphone. Alexa almost refused, but remembered why she was there. Her eyes swept the bleachers until she spotted Miss Coleman near the door. She straightened and said, "This project isn't just about rockets or ions." Alexa's voice wavered slightly as she faced the packed gym. "It's about believing in yourself when nobody else does," she said, locking eyes with the crowd. "It's about keeping at it when someone tells you that you don't belong. I learned formulas and laws from my mom, but in the last few days I found something bigger. Only I get to draw my limits." The silence that followed burst into a wave of applause. In the front row, Sarah blinked fast to dam her tears. Beside her, Principal Watson leaned over and murmured, "Looks like we all got homework today." When the ceremony ended, classmates crowded around Alexa, drawn to the bright blue pulsing thruster on the table. In the commotion, Miss Coleman pulled Sarah aside and whispered, "Dr. Watson, I owe you an apology, not just for the words I used, but for what I did to Alexa. I realize now I clung to truths I never questioned and hurt her just the way others once hurt me." Sarah noticed the tired lines on the teacher's face, signs of old battles. In science, understanding a mistake is almost as valuable as getting it right, she said calmly. The real value is in what we do afterward. In the center of the gym, Alexa kept explaining every detail of the device. The blue light reflected in her eyes, blending with something new. The freshly lit certainty that she would keep shining even on the darkest nights. 3 months after the science fair, Riverside's hallways felt refreshed. In the middle, the display case holding Alexa's prototype drew long looks, while a brand new poster invited students to the astronomy club, now more than 30 strong. On a clear afternoon, Alexa walked the corridor with Maya, Mark, and Leah, debating their entry for the regional competition. What if we ran a real-time simulation? Mark suggested. Once as quiet as a satellite out of orbit. Works, as long as we tweak the input data, Alexa said. The conversation stopped when they turned the corner. Mrs. Coleman was putting books away in the cabinet. Silence hung for a long second until the teacher's smile broke the tension. "I heard you're working on Mars," she said. "If you need help with the analysis, drop by the lab." Alexa nodded. When the teacher walked off, Maya said, "Who would have thought she'd talk to you like that?" "Mom says some orbits need time to settle," Alexa replied, picking up her pace. Hours later, Meadowbrook Observatory was buzzing with families, flashlights, and telescopes lined up like sentinels. In the center of the dome, Sarah, wearing her NASA jumpsuit, raised her voice, "Welcome to the first annual stargazing night. Get ready to travel beyond the last light of twilight." The kids pressed forward, their eyes shining like sensors ready to catch every photon. The auditorium erupted in applause. Among the excited faces were Principal Watson, several teachers, and even Mrs. Coleman. Under the spotlight, Sarah announced, "When I came to Meadowbrook with my daughter, I never dreamed of a scene like this. Today I'm launching Racing Stars, a partnership between NASA and Riverside that will bring mentors and STEM resources to underrepresented youth." Alexa joined her mom. "Our dreams fit in everyone's sky," she said firmly, drawing another round of applause. Later in the lobby, Mrs. Coleman came up. "Dr. Watson, thank you for the invitation." "I'm glad you came," Sarah replied. Coleman then turned to Alexa. "My grandmother wanted to be an astronomer in the 1950s, but there were hardly any women. She would have loved to see this. She would have loved to see you." Alexa smiled. "She still can through you." Under the Meadowbrook stars, Alexa, Sarah, and Maya sat on a hill. Children drifted over, curious. An 8-year-old girl asked, "Weren't you scared when they laughed at you?" "I was, yes," Alexa admitted. "But I found out the universe doesn't care about looks or where you come from. It follows the same laws for everybody. What matters is how we use what we know." On the last day of class, Mrs. Coleman handed Alexa a sealed envelope. "Open it when you're alone," she said. The student held the paper like someone receiving a new coordinate on the map. It was late afternoon when Alexa, amid the dust of a forgotten trunk, found a sepia photograph. A young black woman leaning on a telescope, a restrained smile, eyes aimed at infinity. Attached to the frame, an envelope stood out, its worn paper showing care. "Dear Alexa, this is my grandmother Eleonora. Mapping the stars was her biggest goal. Because of you, I rediscovered that it's never too late to lift my gaze again and relearn how to observe. Thank you for showing that knowledge blooms when we challenge the limits we set on ourselves." As the last rays of sun flooded the room, Alexa remembered the day when, in the classroom, she heard a comment that tried to shrink her ambition. It hurt at the time. Now, though, that wound had turned into fuel. She understood that her worth didn't depend on sideways glances, and that many prejudices are just stars still waiting for their shine. If this discovery lit something in you too, follow the channel. Coming up are stories of people who turned obstacles into momentum and crossed the sky in search of justice. Thanks for watching this far. If anything here resonated with you, leave a comment. Your voice helps this conversation grow. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where new journeys unfold. Until then, take care of yourself and spread kindness wherever you go.